Imagine a world where secret agents, high-tech gadgets, and shadowy conspiracies reign supreme. No, I'm not talking about the latest James Bond movie. I'm taking you back to a time when the gaming landscape was about to be revolutionized by a game that combined espionage, action, and a kick-butt female protagonist. Welcome to the story of Perfect Dark, a game that not only pushed the boundaries of what was possible on the Nintendo 64, but also left an indelible mark on the gaming industry. But before we dive into the world of Joanna Dark, let's set the stage. The late 1990s, a time when the gaming industry was rapidly evolving. Polygons were the hottest thing since sliced bread, and gamers were hungry for a more immersive experience.
Oh no!
In this era, one game stood out as the beacon of innovation, paving the way for future first-person shooters. But this game wasn't Perfect Dark. It was its spiritual predecessor, GoldenEye 007. Yes, Rare, the developer behind these masterpieces, was about to outdo itself. A company that could seemingly do no wrong was at the height of its power. Known for its string of successes including Banjo-Kazooie and Donkey Kong Country, Rare was ready to unleash its next big hit. But what was the secret sauce behind the studio's success? And how did they manage to follow up a blockbuster like GoldenEye 007? Well, that's a story in itself. A story of ambition, innovation, and a little dash of corporate drama. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's take a step back to where it all began. A small, unlikely beginning that would lead us to one of the most iconic games in history. Hold on to your controllers because this is going to be a wild ride. As the 20th century was gearing up for its grand finale, Rare was sitting on a gold mine, quite literally. They had hit the jackpot with GoldenEye 007 for the N64, a game that turned every living room into a battleground for friends and siblings alike. But Rare, not content to rest on their laurels, decided to up the ante. Enter the conceptual phase of Perfect Dark, a project that would take the first-person shooter genre into a new and dizzying height. The story goes that Perfect Dark started as a sequel to GoldenEye, but here's the twist. They lost the James Bond license. Oops. Now, most studios might cry over spilled milk, but not Rare. They saw this opportunity to create something fresh, something that wasn't confined by the suave shackles of Mr. Bond. And so, from the ashes of a lost license, Joanna Dark was born. A character who was more than just a female James Bond. She was a force to be reckoned with. A blend of charm, intelligence, and the kind of firepower that would make Rambo jealous. The game was set in the near-futuristic world, teeming with corporate espionage, extraterrestrial alliances, and technology that would make Elon Musk do a double take. Now let's talk about the minds behind this masterpiece. At the helm were the Stamper brothers, the dynamic duo behind Rare. But the true unsung hero of this story might just be Martin Hollis, the director and producer who had previously worked his magic on GoldenEye 007. Martin and his team, including the likes of David Doak and others, were about to embark on a journey that was part technological odyssey, part creative roller coaster. But developing Perfect Dark was no walk in the park. The team pushed the N64 to its absolute limits. We're talking about a console that was already sweating under the weight of its own ambitions. And here comes Perfect Dark, asking it to run a marathon in the Sahara. The solution? The expansion pack. A magical piece of hardware that boosted the N64's memory. It was like giving the console a shot of digital espresso. Yet, amidst these technical trials and tribulations, Perfect Dark was shaping up to be more than just a game. It was a statement. A statement that said, hey, we're not just making a shooter, we're crafting a world, a narrative, and an experience that will leave players slack-jawed. And spoiler alert, they succeeded. But the journey from concept to reality was filled with challenges. Perfect Dark wasn't just a game, it was a revolution disguised as a cartridge. This wasn't just Rare flexing their programming muscles, this was them bench pressing the entire gym. The game mechanics, let's just say they were as cutting edge as it got in the year 2000. It was like Rare looked at the rulebook of first-person shooters, chuckled, and tossed it out the window. First up, let's talk AI. Because the enemies in Perfect Dark weren't just targets waiting to be picked off. Oh no, these guys had brains. They could react, adapt, and basically make your life as a player wonderfully frustrating. Forget the mindless drones you mowed down in other shooters. These enemies would take cover, call for backup, and if you shot their weapon, they'd just pick up another one. It's like playing chess with a particularly aggressive pigeon. Unpredictable and oddly satisfying. And the weapons. Oh, the weapons. Perfect Dark didn't just give you a gun and it pats you on the back. It gave you an arsenal that would make Q from James Bond green with envy. Guns with secondary functions like the laptop gun that turned into a sentry, or the famous Farsight XR-20, a sniper rifle that could see and shoot through walls. Because why settle for normal bullets when you can have an X-ray slay machine? But here's where Perfect Dark truly shone like a supernova in the night sky: the multiplayer mode. This was the golden goose of the late 90s. You could play up with up to 4 friends, or if you were a lone wolf, against a bevy of AI-controlled bots with customizable personalities. You could make them aggressive, cowardly, vengeful, you name it, you could set it. It's like creating your own digital soap opera, but with more explosions and less amnesia plotlines. This was a game that didn't just invite you to play, it threw you into a world that reacted to your every move. The levels weren't just static maps, they were dynamic playgrounds. Lights could be shot out to create darkness, alarms could be triggered, and security cameras could actually spot you. It was stealth and action blended into a delicious cocktail of gaming nirvana. But let's not forget the cherry on top, the counter-operative mode. One player is Joanna, another is a random enemy guard. If the guard gets taken out, no problem. You just respawn as another cog in the corporate machine. It was like playing tag, but with more espionage and fewer scraped knees. In a world where first-person shooters were often as deep as the kiddie pool, Perfect Dark was a Mariana Trench. It pushed boundaries, broke conventions, and set new standards for what gaming could be. It wasn't just a game, it was a glimpse into the future. In the heart of Perfect Dark, beyond the high-tech gadgets and the barrage of bullets, lies the story of Joanna Dark, a character who redefined what it meant to be a protagonist in the pixelated world of gaming. Her story wasn't just a flimsy excuse to shoot bad guys, it was a rich tapestry of intrigue, betrayal, and a whole lot of alien shenanigans. Set in the year of 2023, which, let's be honest, felt like a sci-fi date back in the 2000s, Perfect Dark drops us into a world where mega corporations are the new superpower. And who knew better to navigate this world than Joanna Dark, an agent for the Carrington Institute, fighting against the sinister Datadyne Corporation. But Joanna wasn't your typical game heroine. She wasn't there to be rescued or play second fiddle to a male protagonist. No, Joanna was the hero, full stop. She was smart, skilled, and had a knack for shooting first and asking questions later. The plot of Perfect Dark reads like a Hollywood spy thriller. It's a cocktail of corporate espionage, alien conspiracies, and shadowy government projects. Joanna finds herself entangled in a web that goes way beyond the corporate greed, delving into an extraterrestrial alliance with the mysterious Mayan race, and a revival alien faction, the Skadar. Or Skeeter? Skadar? Yeah. This wasn't just a battle for market shares, it was a battle for the fate of Earth itself. Perfect Dark truly created a world that felt alive, with a backstory that didn't just serve the gameplay, but enriched it. The game didn't just tell you a story, it let you live it. You weren't playing as Joanna, you were uncovering conspiracies, forging alliances, and unraveling a plot that spanned galaxies. And then of course we have the fan theories. And oh boy, Perfect Dark spawned some fan theories. From the true nature of the Skadar to the secrets of the Carrington Institute. The game left just enough to imagination to keep players guessing, theorizing, and debating long after the console was turned off. Perfect Dark wasn't just ahead of its time in terms of gameplay mechanics, it was a pioneer in video game storytelling. It showed that a game could be more than just an interactive medium. It could be a narrative powerhouse, capable of telling a story as complex and engaging as a movie or book. So let's geek out for a moment and talk about the technical wizardry behind Perfect Dark. This game didn't just push the envelope, it shredded it and made a new one out of pixels and sheer audacity. We're talking about a title that took the N64, a console already on the edge of its capabilities, and said, "You're going to work overtime, buddy." Graphically, Perfect Dark was the Mona Lisa of gaming. It was beautiful, mysterious, and made everyone look like they were still drawing stick figures. The level of detail was unheard for its time. Dynamic lighting, detailed textures, and character models that actually look like people, not just polygon blobs with guns. This was a game where you could see expressions on an enemy's face, but all this beauty came at a price. The game demand was so much from N64 that it required the expansion pack to run most of its features. This little piece of hardware was like a steroid shot for the console, boosting its RAM from 4 megabytes to 8 megabytes, which in the late 90s was the equivalent of going from a horse-drawn carriage to a Bugatti. Now, let's talk sound, because the audio in Perfect Dark was as revolutionary as its graphics. The soundtrack, composed by the legendary Grant Kirkhope, was a masterclass in mood setting. From the eerie whispers in the Area 51 missions to the pulsating beats of Chicago streets, every track was a piece of auditory art that drew you deeper into Joanna's world. And the sound effects, they were the icing on the cake. Guns didn't just go pew pew, they roared and thundered. Each weapon had its unique sonic signature, making them feel weighty and real. Even the ambient sounds, like the hum of machinery or the distant chatter of guards, added a layer to the atmosphere. It was like putting on a pair of headphones and stepping into a whole nother world. But Perfect Dark didn't just look and sound pretty, it was smart. The AI, as mentioned before, was groundbreaking. Enemies would react to sound in sight, making stealth a viable and often necessary approach. It was a game that didn't just challenge our reflexes, it challenged your brain. Now let's turn the page to the legacy of Perfect Dark, a game that didn't just leave footprints in the sand of time, but rather stomped through the gaming industry like a T-Rex in a china shop. This was a title that didn't just raise the bar, it threw the bar into space. First and foremost, Perfect Dark influenced a generation of gamers and developers. It showed that games could be more than just mindless entertainment. They could be immersive, narrative-driven experiences. It was a masterclass in game design, blending storytelling, gameplay, and technology into a cohesive whole. For many gamers, Perfect Dark was a defining moment, a game that changed the perception of what gaming could be. The truth is, Perfect Dark wasn't just a success story in the world of video games. It was a game changer, a pioneer, and a legend. It's a title that had earned its place in the pantheon of gaming greats, not just for what it did, but for what it inspired others to do. Joanna Dark's legacy is not just in bytes and pixels of her digital world, but in the hearts and minds of those she inspired. The only real question here is it better than 007? Thanks for watching. If you are enjoying the Retro Reload's breakdown of the history of video games, click this video to see more.